Recorded.
And we're live on YouTube as well. Have a good meeting.
All right, there, my camera just came on. All right, welcome everyone. This is the Monday, March 15th, 2021 meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. It's 3:04 p.m. and I've called the meeting to order. First item on our agenda would be adoption of the consent calendar. These are items of routine nature or items that have come before the board previously. Staff or commissioners may highlight an item if they wish. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the calendar as presented.
I'll move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
You were too fast for me, Commissioner Hall. I will second.
Well, I like the expeditiousness of all of us. So with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the consent calendar is adopted. The next item, are we pulling that item, the public hearing, Council Belmont?
This is Wayne, Belmont County Council. Yes, we have to reschedule that for a later time, so we'll let you know when that gets back on the agenda.
All right, so the next item on our agenda then would be a decision and action item concerning South Fork Beaver Creek Bridge, a replacement project. And I believe we have Director Kenyon to talk to us about this project. There he is.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Sorry about that. I was looking away there for a second. All right, so South Fork Beaver Creek Bridge replacement project. What I bring to you today is an agreement between Lincoln County and Oregon Department of Transportation for the replacement of the number 2 bridge on South Beaver Creek. So that would be the second bridge after you leave North Beaver Creek Road. It is scoped at just a little over $2 million for the replacement. With these funds, Lincoln County would be responsible for 10.27% of the funding, with the state picking up the remainder. So the state would be paying roughly $1.8 million, and Lincoln County would be paying roughly $200,000 for this agreement. The bridge is deficient. We've actually had to do some repair work just to keep it up so that it can carry legal loads. So this is long overdue. The project, if this agreement is approved, probably wouldn't actually get started until construction would be the summer of 22. This summer we would start with the engineering and design for the project. So I'm bringing to you this agreement with the hopes that you approve it, and then we'll work with ODOT to get the project rolling.
Questions or comments from my fellow commissioners? None from Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Jacobson?
None from me at this time either.
All right, I am comfortable with the project as it's been presented. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve it.
I will make a motion to approve the South Fork Beaver Creek Bridge replacement project as presented.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, I heard 3 ayes. That decision has been made. Go forth, Director Kenyon.
All righty, well, thank you. It's
But don't go too far too fast, because you're still on the agenda. Next, yeah. So update us on this ODOT STIP agreement, please.
Okay. This will take a little bit more explanation. Lincoln County, as well as all the other counties in Oregon and the cities, we get STP funds allocated to us on an annual basis. It's money that comes from the federal government and is held by ODOT, or the Department of Transportation, or the state of Oregon, to be distributed amongst the counties and the cities when one of those entities comes up with a project that needs to be supported. In the past, the way the process worked was the county, like Lincoln County, would come up with a project, would enter into an agreement with the state of Oregon for X amount of dollars. We would do the project. I'd say we were going to do an asphalt overlay project worth $500,000. We would reach the agreement for $500,000. We put the money out, we spend the money, and then we ask for reimbursement for the fund, less 6% that the state charges us for, lack of a better word, handling fees. So that's kind of been the process overall. And Lincoln County gets a little over $400,000 a year to go toward these projects. The state of Oregon has decided that they want to change that agreement process for the better. But yeah, we'll get to the rest of it later. But the agreement process is better because instead of reaching the agreement, doing the job, and asking for reimbursement, they're changing it now so that we can ask for the money up front, lump sum, don't have to specify a project. And then basically our responsibility would be then to track the spending, keep the records, so that if there is an audit, then the county would be responsible for supplying that information. So it's kind of an open-ended, instead of it being closed for project A, project B, or project C, we can actually ask for the funding up front and spend it on anything that we can legally spend gas tax funds on. And so that kind of opens it up. And I think what it is a lot of the counties I know for a fact kind of sit on this revenue as kind of a reserve. And I think this is a way to encourage everybody to use the money, kind of draw down the reserves, because ODOT doesn't like to sit on a large reserve. They want to see the money out on the road. So they're changing this. And so what we're asking for here is basically not a renewal, but the signing of a new agreement. We're currently actually under the old agreement through this year. We're going to be doing, hopefully about $1 million worth of overlays this summer. And that's going to be paid for under the old agreement. The new agreement will take in effect, hopefully, after it is signed, and it'll be good through, I think, 2024. So it's like it'll be good for 3 years. The only kicker here is, in the past, traditionally, ODOT has taken 6% off the top. So $6 out of every 100. Starting next January 1st of 2022, that percentage is increased to 10%. So they'll be taking 10 cents on the dollar. And I know that part of that is trying to make up revenue for what ODOT is seen as a pending shortage down the road. I think they're trying to generate a little more revenue, which, I mean, it is what it is. It's good for us. I may try to use the money out of this new agreement prior to January 1st of 22. If the opportunity arises, it would actually save us 4 cents on the dollar, but we'll see how that works out project-wise. And oh, by the way, the agreement used to be STP, Surface Transportation Program. They've actually changed the name of it now to Surface Transportation Block Grant. Exactly the same thing, just a different title.
Okay. Questions or comments, commissioners? None from Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Jacobson.
None for me.
Director Kenyon, I may have missed this. My dentist was calling. I apologize for the rude interruption from my cell phone. The money, ODOT is trying to get this money out so it's not held in reserves. What's the motivation to spend it versus continuing to hold it in reserves?
Well, I think that because the money comes from the federal government and it's basically to be spent on surface transportation projects. And I think that at the state level, they see that if it's not being spent, there's a chance that there may be some pressure to decrease it.
I got you.
And so, I mean, you always like to have some money in reserves, but if you have too much in reserves in some lines of thinking, then it's not necessary to have it. And so you kind of want to spend it as it comes in. Yeah, there's a balance there, and that's what it's about.
All right. Well, and again, 90 cents on the dollar is better than 80 cents on the dollar. So if there are no more questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the, are we calling it an STP agreement or STPG?
It would be the Surface Transportation Block Grant Agreement.
All right. I'll entertain a motion. Katie.
I make a motion to approve the ODOT Service Transportation Block Grant Agreement as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Well done. Any other comments? Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All three commissioners voted in support. That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to reports, and I'm going to ask a question of, I guess, Florence and or our representatives from legal aid. Would it be, I guess, acceptable to move the legal aid presentation up above the public health? That'll allow us adequate time to address both, but not keeping our guests waiting excessively long. Is that agreeable?
That's fine. I just have a meeting at 4 that I need to attend. But that works.
All right. In that case, we'll still go with the first report, which is the offshore wind energy program. And I believe we have 3 representatives or a group of representatives. I'll let whoever would like to go first do so, and please identify yourself. That's one of the disadvantages of virtual meetings.
Good afternoon, Chair Hunt. This is Jamie Damon.
Oh, Jamie.
Hi, and commissioners. We're so happy to be a part of your meeting this afternoon. My name and Bianca Valdez's name are on your agenda, but your presenters are actually Whitney Hauer from the Bureau of Ocean and Energy Management and Andy Lanier from the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Whitney, who is going to start off. But it's good to see you all today.
And before you do that, Jamie, I'll say I was excited to see you because you were part of the staff that helped me when I chaired the governor's maritime task force. So thank you for that good work.
It was a pleasure, Chair Hunt. So without further ado, Whitney, you are on.
Thank you for your patience. Whitney, it's all yours.
Thank you, and just confirming that you can hear me?
Right on.
And, okay, and then secondly, it's who is driving the presentation or if it's displayed as a PDF?
Would you like me to turn it over to you as a presenter, or would you like me to continue with this, the PowerPoint?
I just want to confirm it is a PowerPoint and not a PDF.
It's a PDF.
Yeah.
Okay, I can present it that, or I can drive if you can allow me access, and then, and take it from there.
Okay, I will give it to you because you have other documents that you were displaying as well. There you go.
Okay, we can't hear you, Whitney, if you're talking, although your mic is green.
Okay, well,
There we go.
Good, okay, and again, now confirming that you can see my screen.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. Thanks for your patience there and allowing me to drive the presentation. And I just want to start off by saying thank you for the invitation to present on the topic today. My name is Whitney Howard, as Jamie mentioned. I'm with the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, or BOEM, in the Pacific Regional Office, and we're located in Camarillo, California. I'm a renewable energy specialist, and I'm also the BOEM Oregon Intergovernmental Renewable Energy Task Force Coordinator. And also joined here today with Andy Lanier from the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development, and he's my counterpart with the state with that task force. Also on the line is Desiree Reed, marine mammal biologist, also here to assist with any questions that might come up. So I do want to provide everyone an overview of who BOEM is. We have a mission to manage the development of the U.S. Outer Continental Shelf energy and mineral resources in an environmentally and economically responsible way. And I'm here today talking specifically about floating offshore wind and its planning process. And BOEM uses science to inform its decision-making, from conducting environmental studies, from its consultations, as well as its environmental analysis. Our jurisdiction on the U.S. West Coast is in federal waters, which we call the Outer Continental Shelf, or OCS, and that is from 3 nautical miles at the end of the state territorial sea out to 200 nautical miles. And it does exclude national marine sanctuaries, which are shown offshore Washington and California on the map on the left. Our authorization process is a multi-year process, and it begins with planning and analysis, then to leasing, site assessment, and construction and operations. And I am here today to talk about our planning and analysis phase, which begins with that Intergovernmental Renewable Energy Task Force, and then moving into data gathering to collect data and information to inform what we call a call for information, the nomination, which is it's published in the Federal Register to provide an area, solicit information on anything related to that area, as well as nominations, which is the interest from developers on that specific area. BOEM takes into consideration that call area, its comments, and goes through a process called area identification to identify a wind energy area or areas, which is WEA, which then undergo environmental review under the National Environmental Policy Act. The next phase in our process is leasing, which begins with a proposed sale notice, includes a final sale notice, the auction itself, and then lease issuance. I do want to make a distinction that in BOEM's process, issuing leases does not provide the authorization of construction and operations of offshore wind, but instead authorizes the lessee or the developer the right to provide a site assessment plan and a construction and operations plan to BOEM for further review. In the site assessment phase, this is a 5-year period where the developer or the lessee collects data and information that they need in order to inform their construction operations plan. The site characterization includes the geophysical and geotechnical surveys, biological surveys, as well as the meteorological information that they need for their the development of their plans. In this last phase, in authorization, is the construction and operations phase, and that begins when BOEM receives the construction and operations plan, or COP, which then undergoes environmental and technical review. And this is also undergoes, or I should say the environmental review is again part of NEPA. There are other reports that are required, and it also, prior to construction, there is a requirement for decommissioning financial assurance. So bringing us back to the beginning stages of our planning and analysis with the Intergovernmental Renewable Energy Task Force. This is a coordinating body of governmental entities that can provide input into BOEM's renewable energy leasing process. In Oregon, in 2019, in the fall of 2019, the task force was brought together to discuss whether a planning approach was appropriate offshore Oregon for offshore wind. The result of that meeting was that BOEM and its state partner, the Department of Land Conservation and Development, drafted a data gathering and engagement plan and was presented at the June 2020 meeting to discuss that plan and approach. At that meeting, BOEM and the state of Oregon committed to offshore wind energy planning, and that plan incorporated the comments from the task force and was made available on our website and finalized in October of 2020, which is where we begin our data gathering and engagement phase. I do want to note that Commissioner Jacobson is a member of this task force representing Lincoln County. As we have detailed in the plan, this data gathering effort is roughly a 12-month effort, and in an effort to try to collect data and information for to inform potential areas for leasing. Offshore in federal waters, offshore Oregon, the planning area was determined where offshore wind was technically or economically viable. So it included an average wind speed of at least 7 meters per second, which spans the entire coastline, and then also of water depths of less than 1,300 meters, which is more of the technical requirement with the mooring system. The planning area includes state and federal waters, offshore and onshore information that would be pertinent to offshore renewable energy development or offshore wind development. The tool that is being used in order to collect the data and information and then also for data visualization is the Oregon Offshore Wind Mapping Tool, or ORWIND Map, which Andy will be discussing in a little bit more detail. Here is a rough or a quick timeline of where we are to date from our last task force meeting, from that June 2020 meeting, and the activities and meetings that we've had so far. Last fall, when we finalized the data gathering and engagement plan, the ORWIND Map tool was under development. And then we've begun to meet at different, for the most part, different standing meetings, recognizing that we're in this COVID and virtual environment. We thought it would be more useful to try to be able to present at existing or standing meetings. However, that said, we just last week had our first public webinar that displayed the functionality of ORWIND Map. Our plan is to continue meeting with either one-on-one, small group meetings, introductory meetings and webinars and so on through the spring and summer. We do have save the dates for public webinars in mid-May, which I'll show in our last slide. And this will culminate in a data gathering and engagement report, and then we will be bringing the task force back together for a meeting to discuss the results of this effort. I want to thank you again for your time, and I'm going to pass this over to Andy Lanier, and Andy, I can drive for you if you're able to hear and speak now.
That would be great, Whitney. Just confirming you can hear me.
Yeah, do any of the commissioners have questions at this time, or do you want to save them for later?
I'll save mine till the end. Thank you.
Okay, we'll hold questions till the end. Go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners. The first thing I want to mention is that the state of Oregon, when we decided to engage with BOEM on a planning process, wanted to acknowledge that we already have, a GIS infrastructure that could be leveraged. And so on the left side of this slide here, you see kind of a differentiation between existing coastal and marine data archives. And these have been generated over time as the state has gone through its own planning processes in state waters. So the geospatial information that was associated with decisions in Oregon's territorial sea are hosted by the Oregon Coastal Atlas and also presented through the Oregon Ocean Information web portal, which does provide some direct archives of those processes to date. In addition to coastal and marine related data, the state has a statewide GIS data enterprise, the Geospatial Enterprise Office. They do host a spatial data library that is often coordinated through framework development grants and the framework development program. So if you're familiar with imagery or transportation related data, oftentimes a lot of those data sets are provided through that state infrastructure. I have been working to support a specific project called the Oregon Renewable Energy Siting Assessment Project. That is a statewide project funded by the Office of Economic Adjustment in the Department of Defense. And that is looking at all types of renewable energy statewide, offshore wind being one component of the project. And so it has helped to organize and gather additional information resources, which will be pulled into the Aura Wind Map tool, as Whitney has mentioned earlier. But I didn't want to miss the part that, you know, while we in Oregon have our own GIS infrastructure, the federal government also provides a number of really excellent resources that house data related to marine planning or marine management from the different offices. So BOEM and NOAA have collaborated on the Marine Cadastre, which provides a lot of the hosting and the web services that are used to present information like on administrative boundaries or marine life or other kinds of utilities. In addition to some good tools that are out there for understanding specific areas of the ocean, you can use the Ocean Reporting tool as an example to view what information the federal government has on many of the waters out on the outer continental shelf. There are also programmatic specific data sets that come from like NOAA Fisheries. So the Fisheries Research and Monitoring Group, which works to support the Pacific Fisheries Management Council, has a number of resources that we have included. And so the product that I presented, the Aura Wind Map webinar, demonstrated that the catalog we have pulled together is an amalgamation or a synthesis of all of the available information that's been provided by either the state or our federal government partners. And those are presented in a single catalog or in a single mapping tool called Aura Wind Map. Next slide, please, Whitney. So this is a view of the data catalog in the West Coast Ocean Data Portal. We are working to continue to build this out, and what I'll point out just generally is if you're looking to just find a data set of interest, there are a number of ways to do so. On the left side of the graphic here are a number of search facets like you would find on your favorite shopping website. As an example, you can search by keyword. You may be able to search by map, by time period, or we've actually organized the records in the catalog under kind of a hierarchical scheme so that you can look at biology or human uses or the physical environment, and the records within the catalog are subset by that kind of curation. Next slide, please. And so the relevant records that have been provided and organized in the data portal catalog are here on Aura Wind Map. You can see kind of the front entry to the tool, which has a little welcome disclaimer and guides people back to the official BOEM Oregon website, which has information on the activities and the current steps in our process. And like many online existing map interfaces, there's a map on the right and a data catalog on the left, with kind of the normal bells and whistles that you might associate with any kind of mapping tool. Next slide, please. So here, as an example, what I have done is I've actually switched the base map to show you that that's possible. So now you're looking at a general satellite image composite, and the base map switcher is there on the bottom right of the screen. And you can see that I have identified 4 data layers from the catalog. The catalog itself is actually quite extensive. There's over 250 different data layers of information. So if you're searching for something specifically, you can actually search at that top bar above where it says active, and by keyword, you can then find data that is within the mapping tool here. I have added in a few specific data layers that you can see, one of which is the bathymetric contours. So they show the elevation of the outer continental shelf as it goes from our kind of more near shore area to out on the abyssal plain. There additionally is current magnitude or wind speed and direction. So I've just shown a few layers here that can provide an overview of general context. Next page, please. Here's an example where I have pulled out some of the marine mammal data. These are either associated with products that have been generated from models of observations, or they are the kind of quantitative observations themselves. In this instance, you can see I've turned on important areas for feeding for whales. That's the kind of pink blobs that you see near the center of the coast off of Oregon. But there are also, as I said, some of the predictive maps. So you can see that the humpback summer whale density is what's providing that kind of rainbow colored ramp going from less to more and offshore to near shore. So you can see humpbacks actually come onto the top of the shelf and congregate kind of in those areas. So just generally speaking, you know, there's all sorts of data related to marine themes of importance that may have some element of interaction with a proposed offshore wind energy facility. And next slide, please. Here, what I've done is actually switch the base map again. Many of the folks we are interested in interacting are users of the ocean space. And so they often view the ocean and recall information with nautical charts as a base map. And so this is a set of base maps that will change as a user either scrolls out. So right now you're seeing a very coarse resolution nautical chart of the entire kind of Oregon outer continental shelf. But if you were to zoom in on the live demo, it would change and adapt to be similar to what a mariner would see when they're out on the ocean. We've also overlaid some tracks, some vessel traffic. So there are products out there, either the automated information systems or vessel monitoring systems, both of which provide certain location data associated with their activities. And here you can see kind of the high levels of marine traffic that are coming in and out of some of Oregon's deep water ports, including the Columbia, the Yaquina, and the Coos. Next slide, please. And then we do have, as there's kind of a great interest from our Oregon fisheries and in fact actually regional fisheries, because the Oregon outer continental shelf is not fished only by Oregon fishermen. Many of the fisheries up and down the West Coast are regional in nature. And so we have two specific kind of data catalogs related to fisheries information. What I have provided here is a map showing the county boundaries on kind of the landward side, showing the planning area that we're considering out in the waters, and then I provided some of the fisheries related data. that come from the NOAA Research Office, either those on the left, and then through the marine spatial planning efforts that we concluded as a state. It's hard to say now, but almost 10 years ago, products that were generated for that purpose on the right. So we have a couple of different examples of kind of fisheries related data. I wanted to call your attention to both of those, as they are good places to begin to understand kind of the extent and potentially relative intensity of use out on the outer continental shelf. Next slide, please. And then finally, this last image kind of demonstrates that we as a state, when we have established enforceable policies as a part of Oregon's federally approved coastal zone management program, we can potentially use those on to relate to activities on the outer continental shelf. And what you are seeing here is the visual resource management system set of data layers that were developed as a part of the marine renewable energy planning we did as a state for state waters. But you can see the special area view sheds, which were highlighted in that light blue outlined and white striped diagonal kind of shape. Those are kind of the view sheds that resulted and were calculated from onshore kind of evaluations of the view shed at over 144 different locations up and down the coast. And so this is a product that demonstrates kind of sensitivity from a view shed perspective for a potential new use out in the ocean. And again, all of these layers of information are just informative so that the task force can begin to understand the number and types of different user communities, as well as natural resources that exist out on Oregon's outer continental shelf. Next slide. And I believe this, I might hand it back over to Whitney. Yes.
Great, thanks, Andy. So as our next step, I'm hopeful that there's still time for a dialogue. We'd love to hear any input, and also wanted to provide some of the links that were referenced in this presentation. So Andy just went through some screenshots with the Oro wind map. It's available at the website listed. And if you have or are aware of any relevant data that should be included in this mapping effort, we have a handout on how to include that information. We are keeping our BOEM Oregon webpage up to date, so stay tuned for any announcements. And if you would like to receive announcements directly, you have the ability to do that as well. We recently added a page of meetings that BOEM and DLCD are presenting to that are publicly available standing meetings. And we also just put up the save the date for BOEM Oregon public webinars on May 12th and May 13th. And lastly, if you know of other organizations or individuals that are interested in this effort, please let myself or Andy know. So again, just thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. And since Commissioner Jacobson has been a representative of the county on the BOEM Fort group, questions, comments, Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, a couple of questions, and part of this is just my lack of memory, and some of this has been so long, but back when the fisheries data was collected for the territorial sea plan process, which, as Andy said, was 10 plus years ago, I believe. My understanding of that, Andy, please correct me if I am wrong, is that eco-trust mapping project was just done or targeted for the territorial sea plan. So those waters inside the TSP, although I believe fishermen were able to kind of place their imaginary 100 pennies anywhere. Is that correct? Do I remember that correctly?
Commissioner Jacobson, yes, you do remember that correctly. The state was focused on fisheries that were primarily inshore. And while we did not exclude members of the fishing community from providing their input as it related to activities on the broader continental shelf. The fisheries that were most well represented were Dungeness crab, potentially pink shrimp trawling, salmon, groundfish, that were primarily more focused on the nearshore species. And that is why the kind of NOAA fisheries resources that we currently have in the portal are probably more comprehensive for out on the edge of the continental shelf and on the continental slope.
Yeah, thank you for that jog in my memory. Appreciate that. So speaking of the outer continental shelf kind of fisheries data, you had said it was derived from NOAA, and so was that coming from logbooks? How exactly was that derived for the OCS data set?
Yeah, thank you. I believe it was derived differently depending upon the type of fishery that was there. So when you look at the breakouts of the different communities of users, they're organized into those that trawl with a net, those that maybe catch with a line or a pot. So it really does depend upon the individual fishery itself. And the NOAA fisheries researchers, I'd have to go back and look at those specific products to be able to give you an answer on each one.
Yeah, and I guess where I'm going with this is I feel like in terms of creating fisheries data in general is challenging, but I feel like in creating a unified data set for fisheries taking place inside the Oregon Territorial Sea and then outside in OCS, I feel like I'm worried about a data inconsistency issue. First of all, we have a data set that's 10 plus years old that fishermen participated in fully well knowing that was for a process targeted inside the Oregon Territorial Sea. So if I told you I was doing a process to eliminate, parts of public use on the west side of 101, where would everybody say they drive the most, right? On the west side of 101. So we have that data set, which is old and was focused in a specific way. And then we have a different data set that we use to derive the OCS fisheries data, possibly from logbooks, possibly from other sources. And so I just feel like maybe we got a consistency issue there, and I'm not exactly sure how that gets resolved or eliminated, but I guess I'd like to know how that OCS data set for fisheries was actually pulled and what data sources were used to create that, over what time period.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. I think what you bring up is that we certainly need to use the best data and information that we have available. And the Pacific Fisheries Management Council actually just hosted both NOAA and BOEM to talk about the ongoing processes related to use of the Outer Continental Shelf, during which I presented on the Aura Wind Map tool. And so we, both BOEM and the state, are just beginning to understand what that engagement, what potential review of the data that's available in our catalog and our system, what their strengths and their weaknesses are. And the Pacific Fisheries Management Council's really needs to be the lead on that, we feel. And so that is, one of the beginnings of our engagement efforts that, as we are just starting that, but we recognize the value in it.
That's all the questions I have at this point. I mean, I guess my biggest concern I have is, just as you stated, you work towards the very best data possible. And when we have poor data or inconsistent data or data polls, you just don't have the ability to make very good decisions, potentially, if you're just missing pieces of that data. My overall concern in this BOEM process is that I feel like some of this is just leading to a foregone conclusion that we go through this process, and at the end, we cite devices. It's not so much about if we want those, it's about where we want them. And I think that's something that the public doesn't necessarily understand, that the process isn't necessarily, I feel like the process is not about having a dialogue about if this is right for our community. It's about having a dialogue about where we want them, which is very different. And if that's what we're doing, then we absolutely need the best data to do that. I will also say that where people fish and where people use the ocean, and also where, where species use the ocean and what they do, is connected to climate, and our climate is changing rapidly. And so, it may not seem like a 10-year-old data set would be a very big deal, but in the midst of climate change, with many things happening and species pushing boundaries that they typically did, 10 years ago, we didn't have as big of a squid fishery in Oregon as we do now. So things are changing very rapidly in the ocean, which makes it difficult to do long-term planning, and also difficult to use data sets from 10 years ago and have them be relevant. So just a note, I guess, that I think this, it's a challenging process, to say the least. That's all I have for now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hall, questions or comments?
I appreciate the presentation, good high level, big picture presentation, but in the interests of time, I know that Director Portal has to leave us in about 10 minutes, and we do need to get the COVID-19 update in. I'm going to yield at this point.
All right. Well, I'll offer just a few comments, and I think I'll echo what Commissioner Jacobson said. I oftentimes also get the feeling that the decision has been made to lease sites offshore for wind. And frankly, I have some serious concerns about that. I think solar energy has proven to be much more cost effective at this point in time rather than wind energy. I think particularly when you differentiate between the cost of electricity on the East Coast, which is heavily dependent on fossil fuel, versus hydropower in the Northwest, which has some of the cheapest electricity in the country. So I have some real concerns about that. I have some real concerns about the impact on our commercial fishing industry. It's great, believe me, I'm a believer in renewable energy, but at what cost to the jobs of the commercial fishermen? And I believe commercial fishing has proven to be a renewable food source. So I have some real concerns about the impact that these wind towers and the area of the ocean that they require for tethering, etc., the impact that will have on our commercial fishing industry. And then I guess my last question is, who's going to pay for it? Until wind energy becomes cost effective with hydropower, who's going to pay for the differential? Is it going to be the ratepayers? I have a real problem with that. So very quickly, that's some of my concerns. And I guess if this is a report on the process, appreciate the information. I have some concerns that the boats aren't being launched to build the wind towers, but I hope there's going to be substantial public dialogue on whether or not the boats should be launched, and if so, where. And finally, who's going to pay? So those are my thoughts, and I'll, I guess, offer a quick opportunity for either of you to offer a last comment. And then I will change my agenda again, and we'll go to Florence next because she has a 4 o'clock call. So Whitney or Andy, any last comments?
If Andy, is it okay if I start? Okay, I just want to again thank you all for your time, and I really appreciate all the comments. And we have some note takers here on the line, and are certainly going to be included in our as a result of our engagement process to date. So, to hear these concerns in terms of the eventual cost, I mean, that is something outside of BOEM's jurisdiction and becomes much more important with the state. And so it's a little outside of my presentation topic, but it's it's a serious concern nonetheless. And I hope to be able to continue to be in contact with Lincoln County through our process. So as I started in the beginning of the presentation, that we're in these early phases of data gathering. I look forward to this continued conversation.
All right.
Yeah, I don't
Andy,
have
any
anything,
last thoughts?
I don't have anything further. Thank you for the time today.
Okay, Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, I would just say as a suggestion, I know you're reaching out to several different counties and I think some coastal cities to kind of do a similar talk and dialogue. I don't know who's on your total list. I know it continues to grow, but I would really suggest reaching out to the Confederated Tribes of Select Indians. They've been a partner with the county on many different types of projects, and I think we'd all appreciate you having the same dialogue with them as you just had with us. So just a suggestion there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And with that, we'll move as the agenda originally indicated to Florence. My apologies again to our guests, but let's get a COVID update before Florence has to head out. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Commissioner Hunt. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'll try to zoom through. So we are still doing pretty good in terms of cases reported to us. We went up a few cases over the past 2 weeks, but nothing to be too concerned with at this time. We are, I just confirmed, received the latest data from the Oregon Health Authority, and we are remaining in the lower risk category, which is very exciting. Okay, we can, you can scroll down a little bit. Thank you. So as you can see, to date, we have had 25 cases reported to us. And we are, I mean, we're definitely going up a little bit, as you can see in the graph underneath the monthly graph. But we're still under the 50 case per 100,000. So we're doing good. Can you please scroll down? Thank you. In terms of vaccines administered, the number of people receiving a vaccine is increasing on a weekly basis, which is really good. You know, this past week, we administered over 2,300 first and second doses to Lincoln County residents and people who came to us from outside the county. We have plenty of first dose clinic scheduled for this week. So as you can see, we're receiving, so when I say we, as the community at large, so we have public health is going to receive, has received today 600 of first dose, North Lincoln Fire 500 of first dose, pharmacies 200 of first doses, the Samaritan System 612, and the Civets Community Clinic 500. And we also are receiving 500 booster doses of the Moderna vaccine. And so this week, we pretty much are gonna administer everything that we are receiving, which is over 2,100 prime doses. So this week is dedicated to prime doses. We have 6 clinics. So we have 2 clinics at the Taft Fire Station. I believe they're starting, check. They're starting tomorrow, so they have a first dose clinic tomorrow and first dose clinic on Wednesday. Then we have 2 clinics at the fairgrounds, one on Wednesday, the 17th, and one on Thursday, the 18th. And then Samaritan has 2 clinics scheduled, one on Friday morning and another one on Saturday morning. And then next week, we will be able to open up the Wildport clinic on Thursday, which is very exciting. So let's see. Yeah, so I just wanted to discuss, like the partnership we have really allow us to do that work. We've been planning on how to outreach to some of the populations who are coming eligible at the end of the month. We will set a clinic in Otis at the fire station on April 3rd. And this is going to be mostly directed to victims of wildfire. We are working with our peril and probation office, as well as our harm reduction team and other community partners to outreach to houseless folks. We just got off a call with the area agency on aging. So we are planning for them to pretty much work with us to give us a list of all of the people they serve who are homebound, who are eligible for the vaccine and who are willing to receive the vaccine. And they are going to outreach to all those people and then help us map where all those people live, so then we can send our public health nurses for vaccination. So yeah, we've been really busy. Amy Snyder has been really busy organizing and getting ready for a vaccination events or more for specifically the migrant workers and agricultural workers. So hopefully we'll be able to give you more details on this plan next week. And this is what I have.
Questions or comments, commissioners?
I'll just say it's all very encouraging news, and thanks to our team and partners for keeping the momentum not only going, but building up.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, I would just say in the vaccine list, I didn't see that we are going to receive any Johnson & Johnson vaccines this week, and I know we got 100 doses last week. So just curious.
So the state last week, we have a weekly meeting with Oregon Health Authority where we specifically discussed allocation, and they didn't really have any updates as to when the Johnson & Johnson would become available. They're hoping for next week, but I will let you know more when I find out more on Wednesday.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Florence, we'll let you go, but excuse me, Commissioner Jacobson, go ahead.
Sure. I had one more thing, and that I just wanted you to kind of confirm publicly. I had an email from Susan over the weekend confirming this, but my understanding is that if you turn 65 anytime in 2021, so you're 64 now, and let's say your birthday is June or something, and you turn 65, that you are currently eligible now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes, I think that's maybe something the public isn't understanding. I have several 64, and 3/4 friends out there. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that if you are 64, but your 65th birthday is in the year 2021, you can go ahead and sign up now and are eligible now.
Yes, we will make sure to communicate around this, clarify things for people.
Thank you.
And I was just going to say before we recognize Amy and Leslie that if I remember the numbers correctly, between the first and second vaccines, we've given over 15,000. I think the percentage of complaints is minuscule, if even calculable. So keep up the good work. I think, again, overall, it's been an extraordinary effort with extraordinarily good results. So with that, thank you, Florence. And I believe Amy and Leslie have something to share.
Yes, I found out from a meeting that I was in that public health has been awarded, but I wanted to turn it over to Leslie so she can tell us what we've been awarded and why, because she'll be able to tell us best.
Hi, thanks so much. Just wanted to virtually announce that the 2020 Community Vision Awards community votes are in, and I'm making the announcements over these 2 weeks. And for the government organization under our Improving Community Health and Safety category, we have Lincoln County Public Health Department. So if that award, I'll connect with either Florence or whoever would like to host the award. Yeah, I will mention that Rebecca Austin was originally nominated as an outstanding individual, and she chose to widen the umbrella of recognition to her entire team. And just wanted to thank the entire public health team for all their work last year and their continued efforts. It's really been an amazing collaboration to be a part of with all your community organization partners. And yeah, just thank you so much for all you do. And I'll connect with you all in getting the award and the award check to its rightful owners. Congratulations.
All right. And we should get a media release out recognizing the great efforts of everyone. And I guess I'll say timing is everything. I just shared my positive feelings about the great job, and that would be further evidence of it. So good work to all, well-deserved recognition, and thank you for sharing it with us.
And I will mention we are putting together an award presentation video with the Newport News Times. So I might use a clip of this video and the video we covered with Amy last week to just share the announcement. So I've got few more surprises coming up in the next week or two, but then we'll get that presentation together. So thank you again.
Very good. Thank you. Comments?
This is wonderful. Thank you.
Congratulations. I would also just say thank you to everybody who voted for public health.
Yeah.
You know, right? Everyone has to participate to do that. So thank you. I voted and I was pleased to see public health in a number of categories, including specific people in public health. It was, you know, it's kind of challenging because I had to decide who I was voting for within public health and wanted to vote for everybody. So thank you to everyone for voting for us. It's been a super hard year for public health and all of our CD nurses and all of the teams. So it just means a lot, I think, that the public recognizes what that group has been through. So thank you to everybody who saw that and recognized that and voted for that.
Commissioner Hall? Okay. Well, again, well-deserved recognition, and we'll make sure that you get the support you need to share the good news with our friends and the public. Thank you. All right, good work. Florence, sorry you're late, but appreciate you sticking around. All right, after some bobbing and weaving, we are to the Echo Mountain Complex update. I appreciate the patience of our guests, and I believe we have what, Attorney Bobier? Is that fair enough? Close enough?
That's close enough.
Okay, and Marianne Ober, also an attorney. Council Belmont, do you have introductory remarks, or turn it over to our guests?
Why don't we turn it over to our guests first, and then I'll follow it up with some other updates on some of the activities around the Echo Mountain Fire Complex. So,
all right.
Turn it over to Blair.
All right. Thank you for your patience again. Go ahead, Blair.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So for the record and the folks watching at home, my name is Blair Bobier. I'm the director of the Lincoln County Office of Legal Aid Services of Oregon. Legal Aid is a nonprofit organization that provides civil legal services to low-income Oregonians in Lincoln County. So that means we do not handle criminal cases. We do a little bit of everything. A lot of landlord-tenant cases. We work with domestic violence survivors. We work on public benefits and other matters as well. Our office is right in the heart of Newport on Highway 101 at 304 Southwest Coast Highway, corner of Lee Street. We are handling a lot more issues over the phone and by email because of COVID. And we're working to disseminate a lot of information about changing situations with public benefits, stimulus packages, and the like. We also have a Facebook page, and our information is readily available to the public at OregonLawHelp.org, where there's a treasure trove of self-help information. We got a whole lot of calls to our office at the time of the Echo Mountain fire, actually during the fire and afterwards. We dispensed a lot of information, a lot of advice, and provided referrals, as there was an Oregon State Bar pro bono referral service that had been set up. A lot of the issues we dealt with were around people getting benefits, applying for FEMA, and replacing lost documents and legal papers where folks had lost identification, or SNAP cards, or wills and other documents like that. I recently was able to tour the area thanks to Commissioner Jacobson, and got to connect with some of the folks up there, including over at the Salmon River Grange, and we were able to disseminate more information as well. Because there were fires throughout the state, Legal Aid has taken a statewide response, and through some grant funding, established a unit within Legal Aid specifically to address wildfire and other disaster response. There's a hotline number, which I'm sure Mary Ann Ober will have at her fingertips to give out. So there's a dedicated staff and a dedicated attorney specifically for wildfire and disaster response. And as that is in Mary Ann's wheelhouse, I will turn it over to her for the more specific information.
Thanks, Blair. And thank you, commissioners, for this opportunity to share a bit about our program. Yes, we have a new wildfire disaster relief program. So it's in response to last year's wildfires. It's based out of Salem, out of our Salem Lasso office, but we are serving wildfire survivors statewide. The purpose of the program is to provide free legal assistance and resources to low-income Oregonians who are survivors of the fires last year, to educate the public about disaster-related legal issues, and then to create a disaster relief program that's in place and ready to go for the inevitable next disaster. We have 2 full-time staff dedicated to the program, myself, the disaster relief attorney, and then our outreach coordinator, Cristian Amador. Cristian is a fluent Spanish speaker and is available to speak to our Spanish-speaking community and survivors of the fires. We have both a hotline and a website that survivors can access, through which survivors can access legal assistance and resources. The website first is OregonDisasterLegalServices.org. The hotline is 844-944-2428. We have someone who is answering the hotline Monday through Thursday, 9 to 4, and Fridays, 9 to 11:30. When people call the hotline, they will likely speak first with Cristian, our outreach coordinator. He'll do an initial intake with the caller. If the caller qualifies for our services, they will be scheduled an appointment with me. And depending on the issue, I or another legal aid attorney will be able to assist that person or refer them to our legal aid pro bono program for help from a volunteer attorney. Some of the issues we can assist with are FEMA appeals, document replacement, housing issues, consumer fraud issues, debt issues, tax issues, insurance, wills and power of attorney. We're in the early stages of our program. After just a month of the hotline being live, many of the calls we have received have been about FEMA denials and document replacement. We anticipate all of that changing as the recovery process continues. We've had just a handful of calls just far from Lincoln County. And I'd also like to add that, there's lots of, as you all know, lots of wildfire survivors, some of whom are considered low income, some of whom are not. And for those who are not low income, or through our intake process, it's determined that they're over our income limits, free legal assistance is still available. The Oregon State Bar has a list of attorneys who have volunteered to help survivors with fire-related legal issues, and I want to give their hotline number as well. It is 800-452-7636, and that's the Oregon State Bar statewide disaster legal assistance hotline. And that's all I have, unless you all have questions.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Hall.
No, just appreciate knowing that of an additional resource that's available for fire survivors. Thank you.
Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you too. I don't think that, legal services is something that, at least for myself, I initially thought of as a resource we were going to have, but just as a show of hands from everybody with their cameras on, how many of us have done a FEMA appeal? I haven't ever done that, Yeah, attorneys, keep your hands down.
Attorneys,
Well, I've only done one, it's a new process. So
yeah,
this is the learning process for all of us.
Yeah, and it is not easy. It's difficult to do, especially when all your documents and things needed have been burned up, especially when you're freshly experienced trauma and trying to get stabilized and find a place to live and get your property cleaned up and all of that kind of stuff. And there's deadlines on when you can apply and all of that. So it's very difficult to navigate. And I just really appreciate the services and your guys' willingness to step up and try to help our survivors here, because it's not something that I feel our community in general has a lot of experience with. And it's a really important one. We need those survivors to be able to qualify for FEMA benefits and other benefits as necessary to help themselves get back up on their feet. And we need help in making those appeals. So I'm just grateful to have your partnership in this, and grateful that Blair was able to spend some time with me out in Otis and kind of understand the scene and the people there, and hopefully be able to get word out in the community. This resource is available, but it's just really, really important. So thank you.
All right, I would just, again, add my appreciation for your patience as we worked our way through the agenda. And based on how busy I know our attorneys have been with the wildfire, I can only imagine how busy you and your fellow attorneys have been relative to the wildfire and providing services to people that, at least in the case of Lincoln County, were largely, our tourist hospitality employees, workforce, members of the workforce, really need that extra help. So it's deeply appreciated. And the last thing I'll do is I will give Mary Ann the opportunity to again offer that website and the 2 telephone numbers for people that are listening that may not have gotten them the first time, listening or watching. And then
Sure.
Again, thank you both.
Thank you. I'll say again, the website is, and this is all spelled out, Oregon Disaster Legal Services.org. Our hotline is 844-944-2428. And that's the Legal Aid Services of Oregon hotline. I'll also give the Oregon State Bar's hotline, and that is 800-452-7636.
Okay, again, thank you both very much. Great information, and the hard work is deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity to get the information out. We appreciate it.
Glad to help. All right, next we'll move to commissioner reports, and I know Council Belmont, you have a report, but let's let the commissioners go first. Commissioner Hall, anything to report?
Nothing to share today.
Commissioner Jacobson.
As of Friday, I did get our official notice that we did receive, we're successful in our funding request to Business Oregon for wildfire recovery dollars, $200-some thousand. Some of that comes now, and some of that comes after June 30th of 2021. So I'm excited about that. And that's all I have for now.
All right, I will pass, but Council Belmont.
Question, if I might, I'm sorry, Chair Hunt. Question to Commissioner Jacobson. If either we or Business Oregon would be putting out a news release about this grant award and kind of the scope of uses available for it.
I think after I got the award notice Friday, and now we have to do like the formal, agreement. And I think after that is maybe done, we could do a formal release on what's there. It's mostly for expenses we've already had. So the part we're getting now is from expenses from January 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2021. So it's a lot of things we've already done, but I'm be happy to work with Casey on that once we get the formal agreement done.
Great, thank you.
Council Belmont.
Thank you, Commissioners. Wayne, Belmont County Council. And just if I might digress a little bit first to say that I wanted to echo your comments about legal aid services. I happen to be on the local advisory committee for legal aid services here in Lincoln County, and also am a board member for Legal Aid Services of Oregon and its companion organization, the Oregon Law Center. And I was extremely pleased to hear early on that legal aid was stepping up to really fill a gap in providing these particular services. And I was laughing a little bit when Commissioner Jacobson talked about appeals and experience, because that is something we don't have a lot of, although we are gathering some right now, even in our office right now doing that. So I think they're providing a much needed services. And I've been very pleased to see the support for providing those services across the entire state. Even for those areas not impacted directly by the fire, they are supporting our efforts as organizations to provide these services. So I'll stop there. And then let me just do a quick additional Echo Mountain Complex fire report on a couple of things. First, actually on the question and issue of appeals, Assistant Counsel Ewell and I have been working with our counterparts at the state of Oregon to perfect our appeal to FEMA on the Salmon River Mobile Park Village and the cleanup of that particular property. That's much needed housing, and it needs to be part of the overall cleanup that's occurring up there. And so we're providing additional support and information. The state is actually making the appeal, but we're participating in it with them. We hope to have that actually perfected very soon, and we think we're going to be successful in that particular effort. Related to that is the debris management task force work that continues. There's a lot of boots on the ground with debris removal. Contractors very active in the Echo Mountain area. I think it's extremely important that we get out the word that people who had not signed up at this point, who had not given us their rights of entry or ROEs, can still submit those ROEs. And we are getting more people actually participating. We don't know if there's an actual hard cutoff date at this point. People should come in, and if they want to participate, sign up now rather than later. And there is going to be at some point a cutoff date later on, but we are trying to encourage people to participate. We continue to make updates on the sheltering transition process with our MAST or multi-agency shelter transitioning team. as the state stands up the disaster case management folks that are going to provide those ongoing services while the survivors look for long-term solutions to their housing issues. I think it's also important to note that we're working right now with folks from OEM and from the state with a potable water task force that's being stood up to deal with some of the water issues, not just in Echo Mountain, but in other areas of the state. And we've got a request that we're forwarding specifically for some action to take place to help survivors who are in need of drinking water right now. And so we'll see how successful we can be on that effort. And then just one last thing to note is that we're looking long-term, not just for recovery in our recovery group that's being stood up in assistance with assistance from the state, but also in the kinds of actions we can take to mitigate wildfire problems in the future. So we're exploring what those options might be, what projects we might be able to undertake. And that's a pretty short turnaround here in the not too distant future to identify projects that can go forward. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have on Echo Mountain and then turn to one other subject.
Questions? Nope. All right, back to you, Councilor.
I received from the city of Newport the report and review that was conducted on Jump Off Joe. I know there's been a lot of questions around, well, where are we with that particular issue in Newport and what's kind of the next steps. The city contracted with Foundation Engineering to prepare a report and recommendations, and we now have a copy of that. I got it late last week. And I think looking at it, without talking about all the various technical aspects of their analysis of the land movement that's occurring there and the potential of continued sliding and sloughing in that particular area, there's really, I think, 3 different takeaways we can get from this report. The first was that they said that mitigation of the entire site is cost prohibitive. It's not something that could be undertaken, and it really won't rectify the continued movement and threats of the upland portions of the bluff, including the parking area, which is the city's primary concern right now. That's that parking area that just sits above the scarp, just to the east of the area down to the beach. They said that you could do some work on the scarp at this time to reduce slumping, but actually the end result of that could likely be more erosion. So they recommended no action at this time. They did recommend to the city that they continue monitoring the site and that they do some further evaluation later on in the year, likely in the summer. So their second recommendation is continuing to monitor the slide movement to get these updated recommendations coming forward. And finally, they strongly urged the city and by implication, the county to continue keeping people off of and away from the site. It is dangerous. And we continue to participate with the city in various ways to keep people off that site and help them recognize the fact that this is an unsafe area to access. So that's my update on Jump Off Joe.
All right, any other reports?
No.
All right, we'll move to public comment and ask for Christie's help there and showing the public input, public comment that we've received since our last meeting.
So we've received it both via the Board of Commissioners email and Smart Sheet. So it's listed right here for short-term rental page.
All right, I think the last few meetings we've shown the journal of.
Yeah, that is not a complete list of what we've received since we've received it through.
Okay, so we need to do both.
Yeah.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. All right. Okay, so between those 2 sites on our website, that's the record of public input?
Yes, and they've been combined into 3/15/2021 on the short-term rental page.
All right. Thank you for that. Next item on our agenda is an executive session, but before I announce that, we will be recessing for the executive session and not coming back into a public meeting. Our next public meeting will be an M-Team budget meeting, Wednesday, the 17th, happy St. Patrick's Day, at 9:30 a.m. We will have our next, then we will follow that with a second M-Team budget meeting, Monday, the 22nd at 9 a.m. And then our next Board of Commissioners meeting will be on Monday, the 22nd at 3 p.m. All of those meetings will be virtual. And with that, I will announce that we will be recessing into an executive session under ORS 192.610 parentheses 2 parentheses D to discuss labor negotiations. We will not be coming back into public session. And I'm going to recess until 4:40 to allow us time to get set up for the executive session. So we are in recess until 4:40 p.m.
This conference is no longer being recorded.